Hey everyone, welcome back to Toasty TCG. Today's video, I've got my Ketramose Commander deck profile. I'm sure everyone that's watching this video knows what Ketramose does, so before I get into the video, the only thing that I want to say is just be aware he only triggers on your turn. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about like a lot of non-bow cards that don't really work Ketramose. Like a lot of us are playing Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and like just today I saw someone say, "Oh, you should play on Winding Clocks, then you can get a draw every turn." So just be aware like things like that don't actually work. And if you like this type of video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get right into the list. So right away, I just want to talk about like the vegetables of the deck, just like Ram, things like that. There's like obvious cards. This deck draws a lot, as the commander is very clear on. So Thought Vessel is mandatory in this deck. Same with Reliquary Tower. Those two cards just so you have maximum hands, no maximum hand size. And then normally I like to play 8 pieces of mana, mana rocks and ram, things like that. But Ketramose just draws so many cards that you're just very likely to see them. So you can get away with playing less mana rocks. For our like little value engines, got Esper, Archaeomancer, One Ring, Smothering Tithe, and Trouble in Pairs. So just like more card draw, get us to our lands. The One Ring is very busted in this deck because Ketramose's lifelink makes the loss on the One Ring like totally negligible. So like it doesn't really matter that you're losing life on One Ring typically. Smothering Tithe and Trouble in Pairs are pretty obvious. The removal in this deck, there's an absolute metric ton of removal in this deck because Ketramose just turns so much of it into also draw a card. So very obvious ones: Path, Swords. There's a Disenchant. Big fan of Disenchant. There's also a Bitter Triumph. I couldn't find an Infernal Grasp. I think that would also be in here. We're playing D-Spark. So I believe that's it for like all the 2-drops that are like super obvious. Moving on to some like more like tech stuff for that are like better with Ketramose. Revoke Existence and Exercise. These are sorcery speed removals, but exile artifact or enchantment, exile artifact, enchantment, or creature with four greater power. So these are just uniquely good to Ketramose because they are 2 mana, remove something, draw a card. Same with like the Sword, Path, and D-Spark if you use them on your turn. But this just adds like extra removal to the deck and card draw. There's also an Anoint with Affliction. Your opponent's never going to have poison counters with this deck, but just being able to hit any creature with mana value 3 or less and exile it, just it's another card that just synergizes Ketramose. Crib Swap is another exile creature card, so that's just more Ketramose value. For other 3-drops, there is a Stroke of Midnight, Generous Gift, and of course, one of my favorite cards in Magic, Anguish Unmaking. This is probably like one of my favorite cards, and just like if I can play this deck, I jam this into every deck I can play it in. There's also Baleful Mastery. You're usually casting this for 2. When you pay it for 2, an opponent draws a card and exiles creature or planeswalker, which is very good. Even outside of Ketramose, I like to play this card. If you can pay the 4 mana, sometimes you do. But typically, this gets rid of opponent, like whoever's the threat gets rid of one of their creatures, and then you give someone that's behind a card draw, and that'll typically work out later down the road for you as a favor. And then a Return to Dust is very good. So now, so this card gets better if you play it on your main phase, because you get to exile 2 artifacts and enchantments. You can play it at instant speed to only exile 1, but if you do save it for your turn, then you get a draw off Ketramose again. And then finally, this deck gets to play an above average amount of mass creature removal. So we're playing Wrath of God, Doomscar, and Dam. So these could be like Day of Judgment and like anything else, but Wrath of God is probably like the best one overall, just because it's just kills anything. And it can't regenerate. You could just also play like Farewell. The reason I don't really want to play Farewell is because I don't want to like exile creatures, and that's like one of the few ways that Ketramose can die. Versus like I'm already playing so much exile in the deck that it's not worth playing Farewell and killing my own creature. These are better because it kills everything except for Ketramose, and now Ketramose has free range swing, which is typically how you're looking to win with this deck, unless you want to play like an infinite combo or something. But Ketramose's 4 power, you're typically be able to increase significantly over the game and just win off command damage. And then just like you just have your board wipe, steal threats, and then swing for 4, lifelink 4. It's typically how you're looking to win with this type of deck. So moving on from there, we have our just like cards that synergize with Ketramose. So first up is probably one of the best cards in the entire deck, Sentinel Eyes. This gives him +1/+1 in Vigilance, which might not seem that great, but this card also has Escape, which means you can play it out of your grave by exiling 2 other cards. So if anyone removes this, then you just get to play it again, draw a card, and put the Vigilance back on him, which is that's typically how you're looking to like put your threat on board, is like a Ketramose with Sentinel Eyes, because now you have an indestructible attacker, but you also have an indestructible blocker. This card is just very good in this deck. This card's been sitting in my bulk for I don't know how long. When I built this, it's one of like the first cards I went looking for. So there's like a lot of like really unique cards in this deck, like Cling to Dust. This exiles a card from any grave. If it's a creature, you get 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. No matter what, you're going to draw a card, though, if you play it on your turn. And then it also has Escape. 4 mana, exile 5 cards. So when you go to cast it from its Escape, you draw a card, and then you exile something and draw another card. And if you exile a non-creature, you draw another card. So if you play this out of your grave for the 4 mana, you draw 3 sometimes. Emperor Bones. This is a card I picked up when it first came out because I just thought it looked cool. But it's neat to play it into this deck. This card has a lot of text, though. So it has, on your combat, you exile a card from any grave. For 1 in black, you adapt 2, which put like 1/1 counters on it. And then whenever it gets one or more 1/1 counters on it, you put a creature that Emperor Bones has exiled with a finality counter on your battlefield with haste, and you stack it at the end step. This card is just really cool. Just you get to steal your opponent's like big threats for a turn, and you also get to exile from the game. Sinu, Keen-Eyed Protector. It's just like another card. It's like, wow, this card's really good with Ketramose. So Flying Vigilance. You can tap to exile them, gain 2, scry 2. And then when you attack with a legendary creature and they're not blocked, Sinu comes in also attacking. So this is, he enters after blockers are declared. So if you declare Ketramose at something, and it's not blocked, Sinu will come in, not just attacking, but also not blocked, which is really cool if you're like, say, like you're attacking a planeswalker and they have like a million like little walls. You can like go attack one person with Ketramose, have Sinu re-enter unblocked, hitting a planeswalker. So I think that was kind of like a cool synergy. The already very good Agatha Soul Cauldron. This card also helps set up Ketramose to kill people with command damage. So you can spend mana for any color to activate your creature abilities. Your creatures with 1/1 counters have the activated abilities of creatures that Soul Cauldron exiles, and tap exile card from any grave. If you hit a creature, you put a 1/1 counter, typically on Ketramose. So you just make Ketramose very big, and then just start running him into people. And this also like really just pushes through boards a lot too, because the Menace forces them to block with 2 creatures. So you're either killing something or just dealing a ton of damage. Either way, you lifelink and you keep your indestructible blocker if you have the Sentinel Eyes on him. Shelter by Ghosts is another just a very good piece of removal. And it also buffs Ketramose because it's going to give him ward and +1/+0. Exiles a non-land until Shelter by Ghost leaves. So typically when you play Shelter by Ghost, they're typically gonna go after the creature you put it on. But now with it has ward 2 and indestructible, it just makes it almost like impossible to remove, to the point where it's just gonna remove the Shelter by Ghosts. Obviously Dauthi Voidwalker. So something different from my Ketramose list than a lot of people's is I think a lot of people want to put these types of cards in here, like this one, Leyline of the Void, Rest in Peace. I wanted to play a very small amount of like graveyard stacks pieces. So I wanted to like still let people have their cards go to the grave, of course, because like it just wouldn't be, it'd feel like very stacksy. But not just that, also a lot of your a lot of the cards will go to the grave outside or go into exile outside your turn, so there won't be anything for Ketramose to exile and draw you cards. So playing too many of these cards is actually kind of like another non-bow, where a lot of things are just going to get exiled on your opponent's turns, and now they have no grave for you to exile from, so you're just not going to draw anything off Ketramose. So it's just better to actually play less of these than trying to like max out on all the stacks grave hate cards. But I'm just playing this one and another one because they have other benefits to playing them, like how you can sack Douthie to play one of the cards that he's exiled. Abyssal Harvester is an exile creature from a grave that was put there this turn. You get a token copy of it, and then all other nightmare tokens get exiled. So it's just a repeatable, get something threatening out of a grave, and then when you want something better, you just tap it, get the next best thing. Crypt Incursion is a super slept on piece of grave hate. You hit all creatures out of a player's graveyard, and you get 3 life for each one exile this way. This is a 3-mana instant. This card's really good. The Graveyard Trespasser has Ward discard a card. When it enters or attacks, you exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a creature, you gain a life and your opponent loses a life. Grave Birthing, I like this card a lot in this deck. So if you play this as a sorcerer at sorcery speed, you can play it as an instant. So opponent exiles a card out of their grave, so you get a 1/1 that you can sack for mana. You draw a card, and then Ketramose draws you a card. So they get to choose what card they exile from grave, which doesn't really matter. But this reads for 3 mana, you get a temporary, like you basically get like a treasure token and draw 2. This card is very good here. There's a Kalidas, Trader of Get. Just like another thing that like creatures would die, exile them instead, and then you get 2/2 zombies. Death in Heaven exiles someone's whole grave after milling them for 2. Does that for your when it enters on your next turn. And then the last chapter is you get every creature that was exiled face down as a 2/2. So this doesn't just like fuel Ketramose for 2 turns, it also gives you a board. Hazel's Brewmaster, ETB or attacks, you exile a card from a grave, you get a food token. Your foods have all activated abilities. So this is also like Agatha's Soul Cauldron. And what you could do with this deck is you could put not Devoted Druid in, but there's a black creature, I can't think of the name right now, where it has the same ability as Devoted Druid, where you can put a -1 counter on it to untap it, and when you tap it, target opponent discards a card. So you can create like an infinite opponent discards their hand. So that's a possibility. I'm sure there's like a lot of infinites you can do with Ketramose, where it's just like, it just doesn't seem fun to like, I'm just gonna draw my whole deck until I hit an infinite, and that's kind of it. Just seemed very like boring. Then finally, Liesa, Forgotten Archangel. Your creatures die, you get them back on the end step to your hand. Opponent's creatures die, they get exiled instead. So, onto, there's like a little blink package to this deck. Obviously, Ephemerate. So it's just like 1 mana. This will help protect Ketramose too. Dawnbringer Cleric has 3 good modes: 2 life, hit an enchantment, exile card from a grave. Wall of Omens draws you a card. Priest gains you a life and draws you a card. Skyclave Apparition hits anything 4 or less into exile, draws you a card. Glorious Protector, so this is like protection. Someone goes to remove like Ketramose, or you just want to blink like things that you're looking to blink. Biza, the Bounding Spring, just has a lot of different value depending on like what life totals are, who has the most cards in hand, who has the most lands, who has the most creatures. Teleportation Circle and Conjurer's Closet. Abdel Adrian, this is the only infinite combo card that I am playing the other piece to. And it's just like an infinite mana combo. I'm not playing like an Ultra Brute or anything to like deck everyone out or do anything like that. Hoarding Broodlord. If you blink this, you're just going to start tutoring through your whole deck. And then finally Ashen Rider. If you blink this, you're just going to start exiling people's permanents. And then the final like non-land package. This is just a lot of stuff that didn't really fit into any specific theme. Vexing Bauble. This is just a playgroup card that I play for just like free spells that there's a lot of free spells cascade in my playgroup. Elixir of Immortality. So the problem that I've had with this deck is it has these very long grindy games, and this is actually the answer that my playgroup came up with for me. So that way, because this deck can draw so many times in a turn, so it's very easy for this deck to actually deck out. So what this does is it's going to shuffle your yard back into your deck, because you're typically not exiling out of your yard, you're just going to hit your opponent's stuff. And like whatever you do exile is going to be like inconsequential, like fetch lands, things like that. Like if you cracked like a Mind Stone. So you're typically not exiling out of your own grave too often. So you just shuffle in back in like your Wraths, anything that got removed that you want to have back in your deck. So that way you can just like continue just wrathing the board, pumping Ketramose, and killing people. Everybody Lives. This deck, again, this is playing a very long game, and you are losing life. So if you don't hit like your cards to gain back your life, or you're having trouble getting Ketramose online, this will just help make sure like you can't get like blown out by like a wincon or something. Animate Dead or Dance of the Dead. This is the other piece, the Abdel Adrian combo. So you just need Abdel in your yard, and then you just go Dance of the Dead to bring him back. You tap out like your mana rocks. You go Abdel, blinks your mana rocks, and they Dance of the Dead. So then it goes, Abdel goes back to the yard. Your mana rocks re-enter, Dance of the Dead re-enters, and he gets Dance of the Dead gets Abdel back, and you just do the same thing. I just make infinite mana until you have enough, and then you go Dance of the Dead, get back some other creature. Fairy Protection, another card, just make sure you don't die. Veto, so once you pump Ketramose up enough, this card just goes like, say like you hit with, even just like the Sentinel Eyes, you hit someone with like 5, you lifelink 5, and you just drain someone for 5 too. We're not playing, like, this is another thing where we're not playing the other combo piece. If you want to play the other combo piece, like, go for it. I just feel like it's kind of like there's no personality or like expression, just going like, here's my infinite combo, I win the game. Just felt very boring. But Veto is very cool because it's 3 mana, so if you play it and someone is like, oh, that's half of an infinite, I don't believe that you're not playing the other half, so I'll just kill it. Like, it's 3 mana versus like if you play Sanguine Bond, where it's like that's like 5 or 6 mana. So you're like spending your whole turn on 1 card versus spending 3 mana just to play Veto. And then it's like if they kill it, they kill it. So it's a lot more negligible versus playing the higher mana cards. Shoulder of the Apocalypse. It's just like you draw so many cards in this deck, so you just gain a lot of life. Psychosis Crawler, same deal. You draw a bunch of cards, you drain the table for a lot. And finally, Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. This is another card like Elixir of Immortality, but also if someone tries to take advantage of how many cards you draw, so they try like deck you out or like mill you, just so you can shuffle your grave back up so you don't lose like a mill. So that's all of our non-lands. Again, this is like a non-infinite combo deck. We're just trying to kill the table with Ketramose and like having a very strong, like a very good like recursive deck. There's a lot of value. There's a lot of removal. You put out like a good amount of threats, and you just like win over time by playing a good like grindy control deck. Finally, for our lands, 35 lands. For our non-lands, Mander Tower, Pathway, Galda Shrine, Temple of Silence, Desolated Mire, Shine Shadow Snarl, Shadowy Backstreet, Tainted Field, Isolated Chapel. But Jukabog is insane in this deck. If you have Ketramose, you hit someone's yard. Playing a land draws you a card with Ketramose. Like, that's really good. Rel Tower, like I said. Urza Saga, Marsh Flats, Obscura, Storefront. So these are all the non-basics. So these cards are especially good in this deck because if other people aren't putting cards in their grave early on, these will get you there, as well as Shadowy Backstreet could. So that way there's things in the grave to exile for Ketramose if you need to early on. And then for our basics, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 swamps, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9 plains, and 3 more swamps. They got mixed in. So 12 swamps, 9 plains. This makes it the total of 35 lands for this deck. So, yep, that is my Ketramose, the New Dawn deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you some ideas that are a little more interesting than just going, I'm going to draw for my infinite combo and win the game. This deck, again, plays a lot more control heavy. There's a lot more removal. It's very interactive, and it just wins off of having recurable threats, board wipes, and an indestructible commander that you can get very, very, very big. Again, if you like this kind of video, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.